Hey, Dr. Mike Israetel here for Renaissance Periodization Fat Loss Dieting Made Simple, video number 7, dealing with difficulties. In the last video, we figured out how to generate a calorie deficit of our choice and how long to diet for, and that can take us everywhere we want to go. But where we want to go, where the plan is, might not always be realistic or possible because of various impediments. 3 of these impediments are very likely to happen to you in a fat loss diet. So we're going to talk about all 3 of them: macro fitting, hunger, and waterway problems. Because you know this up front before your fat loss diet, you're going to be that much more likely to catch it when it happens, fix it even sometimes ahead of time, and not run into these problems. These things have derailed my own diets for years before I learned about them, and derail diets. Right now, it's delaying someone's diet. Right now, it's kicking someone off the diet. Right now, it's interfering with diets. You don't want to be one of those people. You want to be successful. So let's figure out how to do that in the best way possible. First is macro fitting. Dieting for fat loss is tough. And if you're doing it exclusively on the go, trying to make sure your meals have all the right macros like we learned in one of the earlier videos, it's really tough on the fly, especially dealing with cravings. Your kids are yelling at you, you're at a Starbucks, you want to make the right choice, there's cookies, your kids are eating them, boom, cookies down the hatch and the whole diet is down the drain, right? You can use apps to make things easier. The RP Diet app lets you plan all your foods and type them all in. MyFitnessPal does that, not meal by meal, but just for the whole day. So you can have an advantage using apps, but even with apps, you got to log in all the foods and all the stuff. It's a great tool, but there are ways to take that great tool and make it even better. And here is the big tip. Choose for most of your meals 2 to 4 basic proteins, basic veggies, grains and or fruits, and healthy fats like chicken or fish, some broccoli, some cauliflower, some, spinach, some brown rice, pasta, oranges, not mixed together, unless you're into that sort of thing, and some, avocado and some, maybe coconut butter or something if you like that sort of flavor on some of the meals, olive oil, maybe some nut butter, a handful of nuts, so on and so forth. So now you just have a couple of choices. And you mix and match, flavor the meals, and prepare them in bulk, drop them into the fridge or the freezer. That means all of the macro calculations you just don't have to do on the fly anymore. You're not at that restaurant thinking, oh crap, what do I order off this menu? You're at your office at work and you open up Tupperware and you're like, ta-da, diet success, as easy as 1, 2, 3. If you are of means, and it's actually not that expensive, a little bit more expensive than regular consumption of food, get with a company like Trifecta, and they literally make all your meals for you and ship them to you, or they send you already pre-cooked meals in bulk, pre-cooked foods, pre-cooked chicken, steak, shrimp, so on and so forth, veggies, brown rice, white rice, etc. And if you do that, then, gee, you hardly have to think at all. I eat almost all the daily food I eat is Trifecta. It's the easiest thing in the world. If you can't do that, you can for sure buy your own food and cook it. The big thing is batch cooking, bulk cooking, separating into meals ahead of time is a huge advantage. If and when you can't make it to your regular meals, or you can't travel with them, have really good pre-planned ideas of what you're going to have on the go. For example, turkey jerky or beef jerky that's lean, great idea for protein. Fruit, you can buy almost anywhere, fresh fruit. These are all gas station foods, by the way. Handful of nuts, one of those little nut packets they have. Protein bars, protein shakes, these are great replacements. If you're on the go, you're at business meetings or something, you're traveling across the country to make some big sale, and you stop at a gas station, you don't have any food, every single one of these things, or almost every single one, is going to be available, and you can construct macro-friendly, healthy meals everywhere you go. Because a lot of people say, oh man, I didn't have anything to eat, so I ate like 5 cheeseburgers. Like, you didn't have to do that. And now, because you have good on-the-go ideas, and maybe you keep some of them on your person, in your backpack, in your car, or something like that, because beef jerky, I'm not even sure beef jerky ever goes bad. Don't quote me on that. You can leave some of that stuff around. Nuts and beef jerky travel everywhere. Protein bars travel everywhere. So a lot of the stuff you can be prepared. You don't just have to do it on the fly. At the end of the day, fortune favors the prepared. If you've batch cooked all your meals, if you section them off into the fridge, if you bring your meals to work, if you have your emergency go-to options for when you can't make the meals, you are almost destined for success. If you want to on the fly everything, good luck. Good luck, it might not work out. So keep that in mind. Next, hunger. Okay, as you lose more and more fat, you will become hungrier and hungrier. This is almost a guarantee. Okay, it's just evolution doing its thing, trying to be like, hey, you're starving to death, eat more. Now, you're not actually starving to death, but evolution doesn't know that because evolution, you know, our evolutionary history does not involve purposeful dieting ever until the last maybe 100 years, maybe less, okay? Tons of people fall off the bandwagon because of this, because hunger is an incredibly powerful primal human sensation that will at some level, hunger topples every willpower. But even at a small level, hunger topples a lot of willpowers, and then all of a sudden people are cheating on their diet, so on and so forth. But you can be ready for this. There's ways to get the same macros and nutrients with much less hunger. Way number one is to eat more filling foods as over the weeks you tend to get hungrier and hungrier in your diet. For example, fresh fruits, fresh veggies. If I put a plate of broccoli in front of you that's 100 calories, it's going to take you like an hour to eat that shit. You're going to be so full, you're going to be, holy crap, can I please stop? Well, if I put 100 calories with potato chips in front of you, you're going to go like this. Done. What's next? I'm hungrier now, right? So you have choices. You have choices. Yogurts are very good, especially Greek yogurts. And very lean protein sources, all of those things, if you include more of them than fewer of them in your diet, these are anti-hunger foods, all right? Or rather, they squash hunger better and keep you fuller for longer. Another interesting tip you might not be aware of is if you eat very tasty foods on a deficit, it sometimes makes your body just want more of them. Like, what is that advertisement they used to use back when I was a young man in the 1990s? Good God, I sound old. I am old. You know, you can't eat just one potato chip. That shit is true to some extent because chips are so good. You eat one and you're like, fuck, that was amazing. I want more, you know? And after you eat the whole bag, you're like, I don't want any more chips. Shit, that was 1,500 calories. So that occurs in normal populations that aren't trying to lose fat. When you're trying to lose fat and you've been doing it for 6, 9, or 12 weeks, your hunger sensation is so sensitized that one little bit of tasty food makes you want to eat a sea of tasty foods. You can modulate this by purposefully making your own prepped food not bad tasting, just not that great. So you eat it kind of more like a machine and ta-da, like you're sort of done with it. And people are like, oh my God, do you want more, you know, relatively bland salted chicken and brown rice and broccoli with no flavoring? You're like, no. Like, do you want a cheeseburger? You're like, yes, why? Do you have one? Or like, no. Like, all right, well, my next meal is what you said, so I'm just going to eat it. You're not going to overeat your food. It's not going to have this rebound hunger effect, and everything will be much better. Yeah, you can eat a ton of really tasty foods, but who have you ever seen eat unflavored eggs or egg whites and unflavored cooked oatmeal and just gorge on it? Like, oh my God, man, I ate 3,000 calories of unflavored eggs and okay, nobody's ever said that, right? Highly unlikely. So if you make your food a little less tasty over the course of the diet, you have your high chances of success. You don't need to do that unless the hunger's getting to you. If you're like, dude, every time I eat my meals, they're so tasty. After I'm done with them, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had more of my own prepped food. Then you know it's time to cool it on the flavorings of the prepped food and make it just blander, if anything else. Lastly, there are going to be times for most people where they're predictably hungrier or less hungry. Some people wake up starving in the morning, but towards the evening, they're like, meh. Some people are the other way around, where they wake up in the morning and they're like, I can't get them to eat. Even if they're on a fat loss plan, they're like, man, I feel fine. I could eat, but whatever. And then in the evening, they're eating their own limbs. If you know which person you are, whatever times of the day, maybe after workout, pre-workout, whatever, you get hungrier, choose more of your macros, bigger meals to go in that really hungry time. And then when the times just predictably aren't very hungry, you can eat a lot less food and save the food for when you are hungry. So for example, for me, when I'm in a fat loss diet, I can wake up and literally not eat for 2 or 3 hours. I do all my training and then I have my post-workout meal. It doesn't affect me at all. Maybe I'll have like a small shake or something like that, or a little bar. I don't need a big meal when I wake up because in the morning, I'm generally just not hungry. In the evening, your boy likes to eat. So I'll save more of my food for the evening and all of a sudden, I'm just never hungry throughout the day. I eat less food in the morning when I'm not hungry anyway. And then when it comes evening time, I have so much food left over that I have tons of food to eat and I'm just not hungry. And then day after day after day after day after day of a deficit while I'm losing weight, I'm not very hungry. Win, 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 win. Awesome, awesome idea. Give it some thought. Lastly, waterway problems. This is a big deal. Sometimes you're losing a ton of tissue using tons of fat, maybe a little muscle, hopefully not, mostly fat, but the scale weight isn't going down day after day, sometimes even week after week, or it's barely going down and you're suffering and you're tired and you're hungry. You're like, how the hell did I only lose 0.3 pounds this last 2 weeks? This is bullshit. It is bullshit. But actually you lost a whole lot more tissue in all likelihood. What happened is you're storing more and more body water as time goes on. A lot of times this body water is stored just under your skin, mostly in the places your fat used to be stored, the same problem areas in which you store fat. So for me, it's like my love handles. If I have a big water bloat going on, my love handles they feel a bit different. I have like an educated feel for that thing. They look like I never lost any fat to begin with. I mean, can you imagine? You're suffering through a caloric deficit, your body weight's like meh, and you look at yourself in the mirror like I look like shit. I look like I'm not losing anything. This can be so devastating psychologically. It's easy to just quit your diet, and tons of people go through this. However, a lot of the stuff happens for some distinct reasons and has some distinct solutions. First, a lot of this is caused by stress. If you stress less, do whatever it takes in your life to stress less, and sleep more, a lot of this gets much better. So some people will stress, and they'll weigh the same, and they'll get more bloated, and everything sucks, and then they finally like, whatever, and they cheat. Okay, the cheating has nothing to do with this. They stop stressing because they're like, fuck it, the diet's over. And then they go to sleep for 9 hours and they wake up shredded and 5 pounds down. They're like, what? The cheat meal did it. No, it didn't. You just de-stressed. And you can de-stress without a cheat meal. And if you do that, voila, you'll wake up way lighter and everything will look much better. Definitely a thing. Second, when we're hungry and we can't increase the amount of food we're eating calorically, we tend to increase flavor experiences. And one of the main ones is salt. If you salt your food more and more and more week to week as you're losing fat, what ends up happening is you're taking in more salt, and that makes you thirstier. And because you're more thirsty, you start to take in more water. You're taking in more salt, more water. And for a lot of people, that leads to an expansion of how much water they're holding. Plain and simple. Because you're eating like 3 times more salt than normal, drinking 2 times more water than normal, yeah, you're going to be more bloated, at least for a short time. And especially if you eat more and more salt all the time and drink more and more water to catch up with it all the time, there's a situation where you can go for weeks with an increasing or similar bloat and your body's adaptive systems can't catch up. Bad deal. So what you want to do is just standardize your salt intake roughly. You're like, okay, 2 shakes, that's it. Or you just actually use a measuring instrument and put in a certain amount of salt or flavoring. And also standardize roughly your water intake, a little bit more when you're thirsty, a little less, but sort of know like, okay, I drink a gallon a day. I fill up my gallon. This is exactly why bros have their gallon jug, by the way. And I make sure to just slowly over the course of the day, drink the whole gallon, right? That standardizes everything. It means your body water fluctuations and your weight on the scale won't look like this or won't look like that. It'll look like this and like this and like this and like that. Perfect. And then last problem, also in the water weight category, is that we tend to drink, if you're drinking artificial sweetened drinks, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You'll lose just as much fat. But remember that thing where humans are driven to more flavor experiences when they're dieting in a deficit. And, you started drinking, a few diet Sprites, which is a fine drink, by the way, a connoisseur of diet drinks I am. So a few diet Sprites in the evening when, it's fun, it's sugary, but it doesn't add any calories. It's great. When you're starving, you will drink more diet Sprites because your body's like, that tastes like food. It tastes like sugar. Do more of it. And all of a sudden you're up to 6 or 7 diet Sprites. And then you're flushing so much salt out of your body that you get salt hungry because a lot of fluids will flush salt. Then you eat more salt, drink more water. And some of that water fluid is artificially flavored drinks. They're sugary. They bump up your fluids more, crave more salt, and it's this positive reinforcement mechanism that tends to happen, and all of a sudden you're bloated. So what I would say is, especially when it starts to get to be a problem, and you're getting bloated, limit the amount of artificial drinks or artificially flavored drinks you eat per day or drink per day. That doesn't mean limit to as low as possible. That means just like whatever you were doing and you're good with, just do that. 5 Diet Cokes a day. I don't go over, I don't go under 5. Okay. And then you know how much salt you're taking in, roughly how much fluid, roughly how much artificial sugar, and you're good to go. And you're good to go. And it's going to save you a ton of headaches, keep you, of course, you're going to lose fat the entire time through this anyway, but this is going to keep you on that path because when you lose fat and your body looks better and better and better, it's like the craziest motivation you can ever get. If you every week just look gnarlier and gnarlier and leaner and leaner, you can be like, I don't give a fuck if I get hit by a train, I'm still going to be losing fat. Nothing can stop me. But if every week you're getting more and more bloated or not a whole lot is happening, it's so easy to give up on yourself. So with these tips, you can really help yourself succeed in your fat loss phase. And that's good. And a lot of people do succeed in fat loss. Not the majority, but a large minority. Here's the problem. Of all the people that succeed losing fat, the vast majority regain their lost fat afterwards. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how to, once you do lose your fat, how do you set yourself up after to make sure you keep that fat off? We'll talk about that next time. See you next week.